Good day to our viewers on Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands. My name is Thomas Mangloña, and today we're so grateful to be joined by members of the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, the president of the board, Velma Palacios, and its executive director, Maxine Laszlo. How are you both doing? Thank you for joining us.
We're doing great.
Yeah, we both recently got tested, so our noses are a little runny from right after it. But it's been really nice over here in a certain way. We're all just hanging in there.
Glad you're doing well. So I know we're pressed for time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And so we know that, Velma, you gave a moving remark at the Fiscal Response Summit. You said that the private sector alone cannot be looked at as the solution. I wanted to ask you more about whether or not you were satisfied with the results of the Fiscal Response Summit, and what was that process like for you both? Because Maxine, you were there as well.
Yes. The chamber was invited. We had myself who participated and our vice president of the board who participated as participants to provide some input from the business sector side. There were other business leaders who were invited and also nonprofit organization leaders. And it was really eye-opening. It's just because I don't necessarily know what the government, expenditures are like. And so basically we discussed the government expenditures, revenues, and just the allocations and financing. And I felt like it was a give and take. And, my message was, we are, as with the government, the community, we're all in this together, but we need to help each other out. And again, from the business side, just raising taxes alone, it shouldn't be the solution. We need to all, give and take again, like the government needs to kind of reorganize, figure out what it, I guess live with it within its means. And then, and then we can agree to some taxation and all that. But right now, again, it's just my personal opinion. It's not the right time to continue to raise taxes, especially in this situation. And I know that maybe in the next year or months and all that, it shouldn't be right away. I believe in a gradual um, process. And Maxine, and I let her. She was part of the organizing committee. You want to?
Yeah, so I was able to participate with trying to get all the participants together. And then throughout the summit, I was one of the moderators for one of the two teams. I was on Velma's team. But something that I really appreciated about the summit was that it was the opportunity to lay out all the grievances that I think that a lot of the businesses have had for many years. There is a lot of resentment. There is a lot of animosity that comes up when the narrative is that if the government keeps getting bigger, but services aren't necessarily getting that much better, but then there would be an increase in taxes. How does that work? So I agree with Velma that there was a lot of give and take because the businesses were able to speak to what their experience was and the things that they would like to see different about government in order to make it more efficient and operational. And with that may come the need for greater taxation, not just taxation of businesses, but individuals as well. So I do think that I'm satisfied with the results of the summit, knowing that it took 5 days of lots of deliberation to get to those results.
And I just wanted to add, we look forward to the implementation plan that the governor will be presenting on May 14.
Right. Yeah, we're all looking forward to that. I know he made that announcement in his closing remarks. I wanted to shift now, as our viewers in Guam know, Guam is preparing to ease some restrictions and open up some businesses. But we wanted to get to our viewers here in the NMI. What are you hearing from local businesses and local business owners about how COVID-19 is impacting them right now?
Uh, we have a lot of businesses who are very much impacted. And everybody's trying to adjust to this new normal, if you will. Business are operating at reduced hours. Some are still have let employees go. Some are maintaining minimal operational hours, of course, following the guidelines of the Governor Torres's directive. So, I guess businesses are adjusting, and also the hard decision that they have to make is whether to continue to be in operations, during this time. Although some are have applied for assistance through the loans offered by SBA under the CARES Act, PPP, and EDIL. So, but we're all hoping that, gradually the restrictions will be lifted. But again, even though the restrictions are lifted, again, the businesses have to contemplate whether it is worth still being in business, right, Maxine?
And one of the first steps that we're encouraging is that all of our chamber members and employers encourage their employees to get tested. We think that that would just help employee morale, knowing that their coworkers have been tested. It would help people coming into the businesses feel safer. And overall, it's a good community initiative because the more that we know that everyone's been tested and that we can see exactly where COVID is, the easier it will be to transition. We definitely believe in gradual reopening.
Yes.
I know that there are a lot of there's a lot of tension of, well, if we have no cases of COVID, should we just go back to normal right now? And I think no matter what happens, we'll gradually have to ease in back to a new normal and make sure that safety is of the most priority for everybody.
Right, and as you referenced yesterday, we just got the confirmation of the 15th case here. Luckily, though, what we're hearing is that it's a non-infectious case and that it was part of the same infection chain. So things seem to be looking, good for the CNMI in terms of its numbers. But I wanted to ask you more about this gradual reopening. What does that look like from the chamber's perspective? And especially, many people are bringing this up. Stimulus checks are just coming in. The portal was released yesterday. Uh, Even if businesses are open, do people have that money to spend? Well, what is the chamber's view on that gradual opening and wanting customers to walk in with probably what's just the stimulus money that they got?
Uh, yes. Well, when we say gradual reopening, again, we always want to keep in mind and for the employee safety as well as our customers' safety. But it's just, I guess, some businesses are only operating, let's say, 4 hours. So the gradually, if the restrictions are lifted, maybe 8 hours now and all that. But we do, although yes, it's only stimulus money, but at least it's circulating in our economy right now. I mean, some of the businesses, need some of this. Stimulus money to be spent at their establishment just to help out their employees as well. So anything um, stimulating our local economy right now would be a great benefit. And I know there's a lot of people just waiting on that, but it's still something. And we want to see how that goes, as well as, I guess Maxine mentioned the testing, right? As we continue to test and lift the restrictions, it's just helping us feel much more confident in, trying to get back to normalcy.
I also think hearing from a lot of businesses, it seems the theme of the conversation is let's get our local economy up and running
Hmm.
first. There aren't a lot of people that are very gun ho of how to introduce tourists back to island at this time. So I think their first step is lifting restrictions on hours, or expanding hours of
Hmm.
operation while still working with the Department of Commerce. We have many businesses that are following their safety protocols, and it's going really well. Of you can only go in one way and out one way. You have to sanitize so many times a day, especially for the very public locations. So I think that in the easing, it's just the first step is how do we get the local economy running so that we can keep as many people employed as
Hmm.
possible. Because there, if we don't get that stimulated quick enough,
Yes.
there will be more layoffs, and it just will have that rippling effect.
That's right. And I wanted to just follow up on that. Beyond the fiscal response summit, is the chamber in normal conversations with Governor Torres or the COVID-19 task force? What does that communication look like right now? And is there going to be a massive recovery plan of some sorts being released anytime soon?
Uh, yes, the chamber, along with other organizations like NMBAC, HANMI, and other, uh, I guess, government entities, are meeting, and we want to present a plan to Governor Torres, and our recommendations as to like how to reopen and all that. But we do want to keep in mind that, again, it's the safety of the community is first. So I can't go into details about the plan yet because we're still meeting on that. So, but yes, we have been meeting as a group just to present our recommendations.
The situation is very interesting because it feels like it's a constant moving target. So only about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were supposed to have 6,000 cases by next week. Mm-hmm. And so it's difficult in trying to make a realistic plan when these projections are potentially way, way, way off. So we're trying to show grace to the situation, to come up with a plan to see when it could actually be implemented, because we don't want it to be that there would be a significant spike based on whatever that plan would be.
Right.
That's good to hear. And so now I wanted to kind of shift to something that you, Thelma, talked about in the beginning, which is what type of support so far has been received from small businesses. We see the numbers coming out from our NMI congressman, but can you share any more detail for our viewers at home who might not be as aware?
Well, I know that Maxine has done a great job in sending out information regarding all the assistance being offered to businesses. And I know that in the CNMI, we had 56 applications approved for the PPP loan for the first round. And then the second round, we had 243 applications approved. And combined, this total is about 33.1 million, that has been approved for the CNMI businesses who qualify for these for this PPP loan program.
So that's the Paycheck Protection Program. So for those who are unaware about that program, the goal is to have businesses keep employees as long as they can. And so then it is a forgivable loan if businesses spend that money specifically on payroll.
However, and that's about 75%, right? They have to retain at least 75%. Is that number correct?
Well, they have to retain all of their employees, but 75% of it had to go to payroll. And there's about 25% that can go to other types of expenses that would support operations. But I actually don't want to dive deep into that as well, because right now, because SBA hasn't come up with the interim final rule for exactly how businesses should be spending that money. So there actually is a lot of confusion in the community right now because businesses are supposed to spend this money starting as early as like next week, but they don't know exactly what will be forgiven and what won't be forgiven. It is a 1% loan if it's not forgiven. But there is a lot of confusion. So we have been working with our local Small Business Development Center, and we stay in contact with the Guam SBA to make sure that as soon as that information is available, we can push that out too. But it is a confusing time for both businesses and their employees at the time because they don't know exactly what message they should be communicating to their staff. But we hope that it will resolve itself pretty soon.
All right, that's great to hear about the support for the local businesses. I wanted to go ahead and jump ahead to talking about tourism, as you said, and I've heard in the community talking to folks every single day that you're right, there's no real pull to say, let's bring tourists in right now. I think everyone's being cautious, rightfully so. And so we know that tourism has taken a major hit. I read the Fiscal Response Summit report, and they're expecting numbers to return for both China and Korea for normalcy to kind of come in next June and I believe fully next December. So that's almost a year from now, if not more. So which industry do you see the CNMI turning to recover from the fiscal crisis? We know that the casino gaming is always a topic people are talking about. We know that the cannabis industry is also taking off here. So I wanted to get your professional opinions as business experts on where to turn to next as a Commonwealth.
Yeah, that's a great question. We don't really.
It's so hard with the global economy right now. So even if you start making a plan of something that could work, all of a sudden you have your different supply chains aren't there. We don't know how much the Asian market is going to recover, not just for tourism, but for producing. It's so hard to plan worldwide right now. So I think that the best that we all think that we can do, which we've done many times after typhoons, after disasters, is hold tight, sink in, and try to survive. Because the longer we can hold out for exploring other opportunities, laying the foundation for other industries, allowing businesses to have more flexibility in being able to start here. It is difficult to do business here, and that's why you don't see many businesses thriving over time. You can name a few off the top of your head, but it's just not that easy. So being able to lay the groundwork the correct way, which I think is why we're excited about this fiscal summit, because it starts to look at the way that government is shaped and how that could potentially not necessarily support the private sector, but could more efficiently support the community, which then in turn we can make sure that the private sector can fund and provide the support that everybody needs through that. It's just a more equal balance, I'd say, is our priority.
And I wanted to also add that, we just want to ensure that at least the existing businesses here remain open, because that, again, that's going to take away, if they close, that's going to take away all the other jobs, and for our local populace. So, my hope is that we can help all those who are still here remain here and not go anywhere.
And just to follow up about businesses remaining here, I spoke to one business owner who just said he's packing up, he's leaving. Have you heard the same thing? Is that what you're hearing? Or is that just kind of a one case that I'm hearing about? Or is the sentiment almost there that folks are at a breaking point right now?
I haven't heard that widespread, but it just depends how these next few months go. And it won't just be businesses, it would be individuals as well. So we're fortunate that hopefully everyone will be able to get the pandemic unemployment assistance. But at the end of the day, if there aren't jobs here, if there aren't industries here, we talked about this with the governor and the legislature in March, that we'll be afraid of a mass exodus.
Yes.
And so trying our best to get the economy going. If there are other types of tourism that I know that have been thrown out as of recent, that would be more safe, more isolated, things that weren't necessarily as widespread. That's been discussed as well. But right now, I think that we're still like in the thick of it and still looking forward of how do we start planning to come out of this.
But you're correct. Again, that's why I mentioned that a lot of business owners are, trying to make that decision whether to continue to remain, in business or to just try to stay in operations for this short time, because, some of the business owners that I have spoken to, they are still in operations because they want to help out the community, like restaurants and all that. I mean, but they're still suffering a loss. But they feel that it's their responsibility to kind of also contribute to the community and also try to keep their employees, employed. So I commend them for that as well.
Yeah, and Velma and Maxine, just before we wrap up, we're also getting some viewer questions that I wanted to share. Of course, we know that you said you're not able to explain in detail what this recovery plan is, what we're calling it, can look like. But when can folks expect to hear from it? I know many business owners might be watching this wondering, when am I going to get that report? So is that on May 14 as well with the governor's announcement, or is that a separate time? Is this something you're doing just independently as a chamber?
It's not independent.
Right.
It's definitely, there are other business associations that are also pushing it forward as well. And I guess I think what the fear is to come up with this report and come up with this plan, and then all of a sudden there just be like it's no longer relevant. So I will say something that's happened over the last 2 months that I personally feel is we'll sit and we'll try to make this plan. We'll go in March. We'll meet with the legislature. We'll meet with the gov, and then all of a sudden the landscape changes next week. Or we'll put surveys out to our members and see how they're doing, and then the times that they can be open changed. And it's just such a moving target that I think that there is just some general hesitation of committing to a general date until things have. But because of the widespread testing, I think that it will come sooner rather than later now, or it's just a matter of it happening with their general restrictions. We do know that the governor's office does have a plan to let off of certain restrictions based on the number of people who are getting tested, and it will just happen organically. But as far as tourism goes, I think that still is just very up in the air.
So just to add, though, although these would be our recommendations to the governor and all that, and again, we are working with some of the um, other government entities. However, again, this plan, of course, would have to get the blessing of Governor Torres and the COVID task force, because again, the priority is the safety of our community members.
Right. Thank you both for answering that question. I wanted to wrap up here by asking you, we're up there with our 20 minutes or so right now. So I want to ask you, what is your message to business owners at home watching this interview during these trying times? What do you have to say to them as leaders in the business community?
Well, I know, yeah, I want to say that this is a hard time for everybody, and we're all trying to cope with this new normal together, and but I would like to encourage all businesses to encourage their employees to get tested. We are very fortunate here in the CNMI that we have test kits available, and the testing is free. As you can see around, the global area, or just through our neighbors, that they don't have enough testing kits, and the priority is just those who um, have symptoms and all that. So I like to encourage all the businesses to encourage their employees to get tested, so that at least we have more people in our community that we know um, that have been tested, and this would, I guess, make it easier for the governor and the COVID task force to probably lift restrictions, so that we can start gradually opening, up our local economy. And I know that there are many reasons why I hear that many people don't want to take advantage of this testing. Is It's painful. Why should I get tested when I'm following the social, distancing? I don't go anywhere. But I think it's, as Maxine put out in the newsletter, it's good for your business. It's good for the employees, your employees, and the community in general. At least you'll be more comfortable going to a business establishment, that you can say, oh, we're, at least for now, we're COVID free, and as an employee, I'm okay to work with you closer, right? And just in the community in general. But the more we get people tested, the better. So that, again, I want to emphasize, we can continue to lift restrictions, and then, try to get back to a normal kind of life.
I guess I would say thank you to the
Yes.
businesses that are open and making these choices. I feel like it sounds a little tone deaf to say hang in there,
Yeah.
because it's when you have businesses that are sitting here grieving the loss of their employees, businesses that they've built over the last 15 years. And this isn't like a normal typhoon where there's at least some hope at the end that things will recover, or that there'll be a lot of federal assistance. Just feels a little different. And especially that it's now impacted everyone in their employment. So I would say thank you for them, for for making the hard decisions, for trying their best to stay optimistic, because there are business owners that are at least trying to stay optimistic, and trying to operate so that we can keep the community going, because everyone is, if businesses are not doing well, everybody is impacted.
So I want to say one last thing, though. So Maxine is mentioning, saying thanks. So I do want to say thank you to everybody. I mean, we say thank you to our healthcare workers, our frontliners, and all that. But we also, tend to forget those employees who are also out there in the grocery stores, the gas stations, the banks, and the restaurants, in the telecommunications company. So I want to thank all those employees and businesses who remain open during this time, as well. So without them, we couldn't continue to run, I guess our economy, just do the normal operations that we need to do.
All right. Well, thank you so much to the president of the Saipan Chamber of Commerce Board, Velma Palacios, and the executive director for the chamber, Maxine Laszlo. And we want to thank all our viewers in the Northern Marianas and Guam for tuning in. Reporting in Saipan, my name is Thomas Mangloña. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.